ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are wondering where I am down in the right-hand corner of the screen. Welcome back to another episode of the Vocast. We have Miss Veronica Swift with us here today. For those of you who know who she is, will you say hello to the audience?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. And for all who are listening, thank you so much for keeping and supporting musicians and artists around the world.
Thank you for your quick, brief introduction there. So kind of, if you will, let us know, give us a brief peek into your life and to what you do in the music world.
Well, anybody who does a quick research, on who I am and what I do, will just see that I have been primarily known as a jazz singer pretty much for 20 years. And if you could see me, you see I look young. So it's like, how long I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. There you go. And but I actually don't identify as a jazz singer. As funny as that, I don't identify as a jazz singer. My music pronouns are, no, I'm an artist, just a storyteller and an artist. And my primary focus artistically my whole life has been rock and roll and theater, actually. And of course, jazz and theater are like cousins of what they descend from the blues.
Yes.
And of course, rock and roll is a descendant of the blues as well. And so that's the music that the great stories come from the blues, and that's kind of in spiritual music too. So I just love all kinds of music. I kind of call my approach transgenre. And I know this is a lot of information, but you can't quite understand it from just looking at, Veronica Swift, American bebop jazz singer. That's just a piece of the puzzle, folks.
Without a doubt.
That's just what the internet has most of its data, because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
We're here to rewrite the story in our own words.
Thank you so much for popping in today, guys. It has been a little bit of an interesting time trying to get this one on the docket, but I'm so glad that she's here with us today to chat about her story. If you guys are enjoying the content on the channel, make sure you drop a comment down below, subscribe if you want to see more podcasts like this, drop some names of people you want to see in the future. Without further ado, Veronica, you ready to get hammered with questions?
I'm ready to get hammered. No, I'm just kidding. I'm drinking root beer, folks.
That actually is the first question that I tend to lead off with is, what are you drinking this evening?
Root beer. I'm from Virginia. I'm a Southern girl. I just love my root beer.
What brand do you typically lean towards?
I mean, I'm kind of trying new brands. I like to try, if I'm on the road and I just go to the gas station, I usually go for A&W or Mug. But I like to get bottled root beer. That's like, if it's local, all the better. I just try different brands here and there.
That's the one that my father always preferred was A&W.
Yeah.
Root beer has never really been my cup of tea, but I guess it's got a preferential taste.
Oh yeah, they're all so different.
So, leading off with that nice and easy question, what are you drinking this evening? Now we're starting to get into a little bit of the music stuff. So this is going to be a lot more open-ended. So just kind of go with it as you see fit. Take as much time as you want. What or who got you into music?
I mean, what got me into music is so simple as what I was born into. Just like what got you into speaking English as a first language. That's for me. It's my mother and father are both. For those who don't know, my parents are well-known, very highly respected, world-renowned jazz musicians. Hod O'Brien, great bebop piano player. Stephanie Cassian, great jazz singer. And so that was quite literally the culture and a language that I grew up with. Bebop is jazz improvisation and that kind of like approach and a vocabulary of the different types of jazz, like hot jazz and 20s jazz and bebop, postmodern, and then there's like modal jazz. There's these are all languages, right? And bebop was the language growing up, and I was on the road as a kid with my parents. When they couldn't get babysitters, or if it was weekends, they'd take me with them to the shows, and I was like running around in green rooms in the back. Kind of, I'm only child, so I was on my own. But hearing that was the music. There wasn't ever something I pursued singing jazz. It wasn't something I pursued, or I heard somebody singing jazz and was like, that's what I want to do. It's never been it. That for me, it the relationship is quite literally and metaphorically familial.
Yeah. And
Roots.
if I to tag on to that in my research and to make sure I understand, you said that you started at 9, and I also understand you had your first album release at that age.
Yeah, yeah. My mom and dad had been recording for many, many decades, so they thought it would be, if once I started to show signs of like that performing may or may not be, it may be the path that I would follow in life. We don't know when you're that young. That's like, you're just, I just got up on stage and sang with my parents a couple times for fun. And my mom just thought it would be a good idea it wasn't like my parents pushed me. A lot of people love to buy into the, like child in show business and her parents pushed her into it, right? No, my mom she just thought, it'd be a fun thing to do as a family together. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, and this will be something she can look back on, whether she goes into music or doesn't. And she'll be proud that she did it, and that's the case.
How fondly do you look back on the memory of starting your music career that early?
I don't really like, it was fun I'm a performer. I just like to perform in whatever capacity, dancing, singing, acting, and that's, or even in sports too, there's a performance element too. So that's the part I look back on with fondness. And I, grew up on the road, and what I appreciate is having, had that kind of early training for the life I have now, in the heavy amounts of touring and, like lack of schedule that one has and lack of routine. What I had as a kid kind of prepared me mentally for that. So I'm very grateful for that.
It's a beautiful story to start out with. So who are some of the more influential figures, both in your personal life as well as your musical career? Someone that's really been a driving force.
Yeah, I would say absolutely the big band, or the band director at my middle school and high school, really. And the middle school actually was where Pete and I, our mutual friend Pete, we were both in band together. Mr. Fagan, awesome band director. And then my high school band director, his name is Greg Thomas. And he sparked creative, he ignited a creative spark in his students, in that, most band directors in schools they get the sheet music, they give it to the kids, and they say, all right, we're going to work on our articulations and play what's exactly on the page. Not Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas was somebody who'd be like, all right, now that we've played through this music and seen it, how can we make it different and make it our own? And he would have the trumpets. I'm a trumpet player too. So he would have the trumpets go and write your own soli. And he would have us think as arrangers, and he would have us combining like different genres in the context of what jazz band was, even just like something as simple as a jazz band. We had hip hop and rap and rock, and there were all these elements he was infusing, and different, he was just so out of the box creative, like not like a usual kind of mainstream thinker. So I think I appreciated that, being one myself, like a out of the box thinker. And that was a person in my personal life that had a big effect on me, and it carried me through college when I was having a lot of trouble with fitting in, so to speak. I thought, I'm in music school, so that'll be great. I get to use my skills that I've developed with a young person with a career, and bring those skills. And nope, it was very much a different kind of lesson, more so about like time management, of course.
Sure.
We all know what that feels like, and also managing the politics of a school, and that's something I just never quite grasped, but my first stab at that. And so yeah, Mr. Thomas was a huge inspiration. And then of course, the band Queen, Brian May and Freddie, are just the biggest of inspirations of all. They're my top pick of any, not just because they're music, but just their approach to their artistry and songwriting and performing, and the fusing of classical and theatrical elements with just raw power rock and roll. And
they also just had this energy to their performances that's unmatched.
Yep.
It's without a shadow of a doubt some of the more talented singers I've ever seen. So it's totally justifiable why you put your forgot the word, but I see what you were saying there. But
absolutely.
And I did want to mention also that in speaking to the middle and high school band directors, it's kind of rare to see them like not only like they some of them will do their job and then they will present what's on the page and they but for them to have you bring it to life, that's such a soothing thing to hear, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen super often, and I love to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we should encourage that more.
I have seen some of the craziest and most class act performances from people who were allowed their creativity in a performance. It is wild what you can do with that.
Yeah.
So, in saying that and in discussing some of your more influential figures, or what is something that one of those figures may have said to you in the past that has stuck with you all this time?
Oh, actually, it's not like I must say that it's not necessarily always a poignant thing that there. It's not something a great word of wisdom or advice or something that sticks with you. What sticks with you is just the way of being that these people have. Like when Freddie's in this interview, and they say like, "What do you do?" like for fun, and he just says, "I have a lot of sex,"
Yeah.
the purpose, no, but what that makes you think is like, yeah, like remember to enjoy like dive into the deeper, darker sides of being a human being. And what I appreciate is embracing the full spectrum of a human being, right? Is that's how we get our inspiration to create.
Yeah.
If everything's great all the time and everything's just perfect all the time and nobody makes mistakes, what good is that when listening to a song about that? I'm
Where's the
interested
human in it?
Yep. And that's why I try to stay off social media as much as I can, but it's that necessary evil, I guess.
Yeah.
But we have to keep promoting a full human, and like these are the deeper sides, these are the darker sides of who I am. And this is like, and also just have fun. Freddie loved to have fun. I think that's something we all forget to do. We put so much pressure on ourselves, and that's what I love about him. He just how he navigated that pressure, and of course it wasn't without its challenges, right? He had his dark moments, but then how he would always find his way back by means of the creating with his band. And that's what I always wanted, was a band, and that's what I'm finding now.
And it's a beautiful thing too. It's something that I've always told my friends, is that in your career, in life in general, what is life without fun? You can't really, you would drive yourself mad.
Yeah, and I have absolutely been there.
And forgetting that, I've even forgotten it before, and then that's when I lose my place in life, so to speak, is whenever there's no fun in it.
Yeah, and I find that I actually can't create. It's like my partner Brian used a very good analogy today. He said it's like, he's like, we were walking, and so he started walking faster, and he said, try to keep up with me, okay? And I was like, okay. So I started to walk a little faster, and he's like, now tell me about this photo shoot you've got next week. And I'm like telling about the photo shoot, and as I'm talking about my ideas, he's starting to walk faster and faster. And he's like, come on, keep up. And it was a very good analogy of like, when you're trying to just keep up all the time, you can't think about your creative things, it doesn't flow.
It really doesn't. And that's actually a pretty powerful analogy too, because I've never really conceptualized it like that.
Oh yeah. You have to just go at your own pace and take as much time as you need to just be in your body, be in yourself, and leisure.
For sure. And then moving on to more of the instrument side of things. So I know you mentioned you play trumpet. Was there any other instruments that you picked up throughout the years?
I mean, I've always piano. Piano was always what I played. I'm actually sitting on it right now. We're at my piano as we speak. It's hard to see right now, but
is that a grand?
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. And so that's really what I would say would have been more of a main instrument of mine if life didn't get in the way. But I do play classical piano and pick it up every now and then, and I use it to write. And I'm starting to now incorporate it into my own show where I go over for a song and play. And so, yeah.
How long have you? So has piano been the It hasn't been the entire career instrument.
No, I mean, I've always just been a singer.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
never really performed piano. It's always been the instrument that every musician needs to have a handle on a chordal instrument, so guitar or piano.
Mhm.
I say every singer should learn a horn instrument as well, and that's why I play trumpet, and every instrumentalist should sing.
I agree wholeheartedly. And coming from high school and middle school band as well, I knowing the trombone and having played it before, I'm of that same belief.
Yes.
The most fun instrument in the band, I will add, and I will die on that hill.
Trombone.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, can you glissando with a trumpet?
Not quite like the same. No, of course. Yeah.
Nah, that's the running joke that I always have whenever
Right.
I'm talking to other people that have been through band is I joke with them about what's the best instrument, but that's always been my argument is having a slide. But
That makes it fun for sure.
oh yeah, without a doubt. But back on topic though, how long have you been? So it's been since middle school for trumpet, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what would be, and this is kind of a branch off question, but this is something that I'm curious about. Is there any one piece of music that that you played maybe through middle school, high school, or even college if you played then? Is there any one piece that stuck out to you? You're like, whoa, this was my favorite one?
Mm, I don't really know. Like, not with that. Well, favorite is a hard thing to just generalize, but not that I've played because I'm not playing in professional orchestras. But my favorite piece of music probably out there is "Rite of Spring" by Stravinsky, and so why is because I love. For me, it's you listen to certain pieces or songs to invoke certain, get in touch with a certain emotion or two or three. But Rite of Spring for me goes through the widest range of the emotional spectrum, and everything from the deepest chasms of depression to the fiery pits of rage and to the closest one can get to feeling exaltation and joy and all these things. It's got also every kind of, there's swing elements, there's heavy metal elements, but it's before any of that music. So for me, Rite of Spring is probably chock full of all the things I love in every piece ever.
I will have to give it a listen then because I love the music that really kind of encapsulates all genres or gives a lot of feels in one single track.
Yeah, and it was totally rock and roll at the time it came out. I think 1918, I think that it came out. When it was with the was it Paris Ballet, the French ballet company I forget which company it was, but Stravinsky was commissioned to write a piece for the ballet company, and it was the music and the performance and the concepts and the dancing and it was so primal. It was about the kind of Aboriginal people, and actually no, yeah, it was about pagan people, paganism,
Okay.
and in the 1910s, you were watching Swan Lake and you were watching Sleeping Beauty. You weren't watching pagans having a sacrificial ritual for their virgin of their tribe. You know what I mean? This is
Right.
this is so. There were riots in the ballet, in the opera house.
Yeah,
So it's quite an important piece of music history.
for sure. So, in your musical career, there's probably been a lot of things that you have shared with your audience, but if there's anything that you might not have shared, what's something maybe interesting or a fun fact about you that most people might not know?
Interesting or fun fact, because those are two very different things.
Whichever you please.
Yeah, well, there's a funny. This is actually kind of, when we say funny or fun fact, but someone asked me the other day, "What are your hobbies outside music? Like, what do you do for fun other than music?"
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have an answer. I thought that was a fun fact, funny. in the fact that like my whole life is just consumed by what I do, and I love it. Um, but I think I guess something interesting that's random is I do love to I enjoy when it comes time for Winter Olympics. Of course, I enjoy is the short track speed skating the most. That is something I used to follow quite religiously. It's kind of like human NASCAR with blades, you know.
Yeah, I've always found it intriguing myself.
Yeah, I knew a couple Olympic short trackers that back in the day. Of course, they're retired now, but
Sure, yeah. Speaking of, when is the next Olympics? I haven't kept track.
well, we had the summer in 2024, right? So
Yeah, okay.
2026.
2026. That's right. It's 2 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really interesting though, because I've never that's like a first on the channel as far as interest, but
Yeah.
it's really unique though because I've always been fascinated just by the idea of skating in general, and it's just,
Mhm.
I enjoy that a lot. But so and you kind of already mentioned this, but you did mention that you don't really have too much to do that you do outside of music, and since it kind of revolves around your career, your life does. But in the event that there is much free time, what do you find yourself doing?
Well, I don't have it. I haven't had free time. I don't have it. I try to make that time to just go for a walk. Honestly, just going for a walk is so important. Or to go hiking or something. I don't. If I do have it, it would be a day here and there. So just to be in touch with the earth again and breathe air and breathe in the smell of the flowers. Literally, that's what the analogy is for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to, if I ever have time, would like to pick up a horseback riding and fencing, but
Fencing has always intrigued me as well
hmm
because you're literally it feels like you're stabbing people, which safely, right?
it's a very, very exhilarating sport. I had a couple um, experiences with it, so it was very fun for me. I just have to be careful with my knees, but
Sure, yeah. So in that segue, back to circling back around to more of the vocal side of things.
yes.
Do you have any tips or life hacks for someone that sings and wants to get better or wants to make a career out of it?
That's so hard. I would have to know particularly that answer depends on the person what they're asking about. I mean, there's no hacks when it comes to singing. It's just you. There's no hacks to that. The voice is literally your instrument is your body. So it's going to show your strengths and weaknesses. You know what I mean? There's no getting around that. And
Sure.
it just takes the building that craft and like really having an understanding of your body. So I would say that's something that could help if you're a person that's really gets wrapped up in your head and thinking too much. It's funny because what singing, the technique and the craft of singing and using your instrument and vocalizing has so much attached to it in terms of, getting your vowels and your opening of the throat and the diaphragm and the this and the that and the this and that and your posture. It's so much like a checklist that goes on forever. And then what the point you want to get to is you don't have to think about it because the worst thing you can do when you're singing is think.
Yeah.
But then you have all these things you have to like consider, right? So it's just a lot of it is it's like just like with sports or something active, muscle memory with dancing. When you learn your choreography, you're thinking about all your things in your body, your posture, your point, your whatever, all these things until you just do it so many times the right way and catch yourself and then do it so many times the right way, it just becomes muscle memory. You don't have to think about it. I would say that learning how to let go of overthinking is probably one of the most important things to try and wrap your head around, right? To understand, like work on that for yourself and quieting your mind. Because what singing is just, we're supposed to have fun doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be something that we
Of
really
course.
enjoy.
And technique is there to unleash our expression. If we want to express ourselves and hit a certain note because we're feeling that note and that power at the top of our range, if we don't have the technique to do that, we can't express ourselves. We are locked.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of people will make that, misconception, like, oh, like I just really want to focus on the artistry and the musicianship and the expression of my singing. And I think if I focus too much on technique, that just takes me away from expressing myself. I find this very funny because the technique is there to unlock your way of expression.
Exactly. I think that's really well said too, but I really liked your point about quieting the mind, because I feel like that's something that many of us can relate to, where it's just running 100 miles a minute, trying to go through a checklist, and then you're also dealing with those self-judgments sometimes. And
no time for that. No room for that up there. This can only handle so much.
If you think you can't, it's like someone that I grew up with once said. He said, if you think you can't, you can't.
Exactly.
And I have never heard a more true statement ever, I don't think. It's quieting the mind. That is such an elaborate yet simple concept.
Yeah, the most powerful.
It is incredible. So, we have reached a little bit of a transitionary period here in the podcast. So now we're going to give a little bit of a break from the slurry of questions that I sent your way. And this will be a brief moment for you to advertise, maybe share what you got going on, talk about merch, what you got going on in your life.
Oh,
you have the floor. You have the floor for the next couple minutes.
Yeah, for anybody who loves all kinds of music, jazz, rock, funk, soul, classical music, Latin, Brazilian music, my show has all of it. And but what more so, my show has a wonderful story about how to free yourself of all these expectations and pressures, just enjoy and enjoy good music and learn how to express yourself. The story of my show is tell your own story in your own words. And so if you're interested in checking my music out, I perform all over the world, literally. I was just in Florida last week. I'll be in New York at the Saratoga Springs Spa Theater May 1st. So if you're in New York, upstate area, come on out. And I'm going to be back in upstate New York for the Rochester Jazz Fest and Saratoga Springs Jazz Fest in late June. But if you're in the Midwest, Michigan, I'm going to be June 25th at the Ann Arbor Music Festival. So I'm kind of all over the place. I'm going to Asia in May. I'm going to Europe in July and August and September. And at late September, I will be performing with my brand new rock band. So if you guys like rock music, I've been developing a project for a long time. It's Veronica Swift. My band is called Dame, and we are releasing our first set of music really September 12th, and then we'll be going on a tour at the end of the month in September, starting in Massachusetts to go to New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Chicago, and Minnesota. And so and we have our first show together at Viper Room, September 5th. So if you're in LA, which is where I live, come out to Viper Room September 5th.
It's awesome. You've got a slam-packed schedule, it seems.
Oh, yes. Like I said, there's no time for free time. There's no free time, but, we're all on a mission here.
Of course. It's always been that way, and it always will be, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is what she has going on, guys. I will make sure that I include all of her information in the description. So if you get a minute, make sure you check her pages out. Make sure you check her schedules. See if you can go see a performance. If you've never seen jazz live, if you've never heard jazz before, trust me, it's worth it. It's such a unique music style that you will never forget it the first time you've ever heard it.
Like that.
I have never seen such a profound music type until I heard my first jazz song when I was a kid.
And what was that?
Louis Armstrong. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It wasn't What a Wonderful World. That'd be a little bit too cliche. There was another one that he did that I forgot the name of. If I would have to do some digging and send it to you, but I most certainly that's I got broken into the world of jazz through the great Louis Armstrong,
Great.
and you know, have to pay homage to him,
Mm-hmm.
going down in history without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on from the self promo section, I do tend to bring this next section in to kind of catch people off guard a little bit, but just as like a more of a
Okay.
fun thing to
Sure.
kind of. And what I do is I allow my guests a few moments to kind of flip the script and ask me any questions that might come to mind over the time that we have together. So, in the event that you do have any questions for me, or if there's anything you're curious about, you have the floor to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were some of your favorite interviews you've had?
Ooh, that's a good one. Some of my favorite interviews that I've had so far, I would have to probably say, start off, I would say probably one of my first favorite ones would be way back at the beginning in 2022 when I interviewed Bobby Waters. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Of course.
And then the very first interview I ever did with Peter, which was awesome. Legendary, you know this, but legendary guy, and it's a privilege to have met him and befriended him in the world of music. I'd have to say another one that's been really interesting is, I would say this one's a little bit more interesting rather than just a favorite, but I got the privilege of speaking with Glenn Miller. Legendary octavist bass singer, one of the lowest voices in the entire world.
Wow. It's incredible. His name is Glenn Miller. Because I was like, Glenn Miller, the big band director, died in 1940. I was like, do you have like a seance or something?
I knew
sure
it was
you've
going
heard
to catch you off guard. Yeah.
It totally did. You got me. That's
Yes.
cool. So his name is Glenn Miller. Nice.
Yes. He is an absolutely legendary guy. Has
Great.
if you ever ask Peter about him, he's got such a low voice. You could be sitting on the other side of an auditorium and he could speak and you probably would feel it in your feet. I'm being
Wow.
dramatic, but
Yeah, I understand.
he's a legendary guy, and he's a big teddy bear too. You can't not love the guy.
Yeah,
He's just
well,
a
that's
wholesome
beautiful.
human being. And I also have to say, I had a huge privilege of interviewing. I'm not sure if you're familiar, David Michael Frank from TikTok.
I don't know TikTok stuff, but yeah.
He is a legend. He's got a heck of a rock tenor style voice, and he's just a great down to earth guy. And he's kind of been doing a lot of touring lately, and that was a fun interview as well.
Fantastic.
It's been a wonderful journey, this podcast here, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure I get to meet lots of really interesting people.
I've only been doing this, I would say 2.5 years now, and it's incredible the walks of life of the people that I've been fortunate enough to discuss with. It's incredible the walks of life that you see that they come from, and just the
Sure.
genres and the way they perform, and just it's this universal love for music too. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
Any other questions that stick out that you?
Where do you live now? Where are you now?
So I'm actually in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm not a rock's throw from where you're from, but I'm definitely not across the country either.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I
Yeah.
understand it, it would have been probably like a 6-hour drive or something like that. That's kind of crazy too to think about.
Yeah. Okay. I know where Winston-Salem is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at currently, and born and raised here. It's always been a good time here for sure.
Fantastic.
Anything else?
How did you meet Peter?
So what's interesting is that I kind of really started all of this in a world of bass singing, because that's something that really intrigued me, is that have people that have lower lying voices that can sing brutally low notes, so to speak. And I kind of found myself in this like community of people who really enjoyed bass singing, choir singing, even, a cappella music. And that's kind of where I started things out. And whenever I originally stumbled into him, I actually took a lot of, before I really got to meet him and before I got the channel started, I got to a glimpse into the side of YouTube that he was in, and I really thought to myself, that's really cool. I can take inspiration from this, and I can not only do I do these like reaction and analysis videos.
So you met him on YouTube?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, intertwined with YouTube and this private, or I wouldn't say private, this community of bass singing. That's kind of how we met, and
Niche.
yeah, it was in this bass singing niche, and such a gentleman, and I was able to reach out to him one day, and I said, hey, I take a lot of inspiration from your YouTube. I'm a smaller creator, just getting into the things. I like doing podcasts as well. What are the odds that we can land something one day? And he got back to me, I think it was maybe a couple days later. He said, hey, let's do it. And that's kind of how we did it. And then we kind of really got to more got to know each other in that podcast. And then one thing led to another. And then this past year, back in November, after this, and this is back like a year and a half later, we had ended up meeting. We had done a second podcast, and I was actually out with my wife visiting a couple of friends out in Phoenix, where he's at now.
Yeah, I know he lives there now.
And best friend got engaged. We wanted to be there for that, and I figured out that I wasn't actually going to be very far from where he was, so we ended up lining up a meet, and we had breakfast. It was a really cool experience for sure to finally get to see a friend of mine in person. And yeah, that's kind of our story of our friendship, so to speak.
Great. Love
And
it.
not as extravagant as your story with him, but
No, it's I miss that guy so much. Haven't seen him in years.
yeah. And I know it was kind of a hey, I know Peter, how does the interview with me sound kind of thing. I know that was kind of sort of how I reached out, but I really just enjoy seeing other people that I'm friends with and what they do in music, and I just love learning about everyone's journey through music. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how this conversation ended up happening.
of course. That makes sense.
Anything else popping to mind?
No, I think couldn't put me on the spot. I don't know.
Nah, yeah. Hey, that's good. And
Oh,
sometimes I like to do it on the spot, and sometimes people can rattle a bunch off, and sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes it's just they don't have any, and I'm like, hey, there's no harm, no foul, It's just intended to be one of those fun pieces.
yeah.
But yeah, so we are nearing the end of the podcast, but we do have one send out question that I always ask all of my guests,
Okay.
and it goes like this: if you could steal any one particular singer's voice, alive or passed on, who would it be and why?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't steal it. I would have my own voice. I and
You
I
are the first person to say that.
That's a shame, but okay. I would have my own voice, but what I love about my own voice is that it is the culmination of all my favorite singers. Why choose one, right? If you have to choose one, well, I don't want to just choose one. I want all the best parts of all the people I love. I love Nina Simone. I love Freddie Mercury. I love Maria Callas. I love Elise Regina. I love Anita O'Day. I love Robert Plant. I love Steven Tyler. I love all these singers that are just huge inspirations to me. Why not put them all together into one that makes something new and
Yeah.
it's unique in its own way? And that's me. And there's nothing better than that. Having your own voice.
And of course, you can still have it patterned after
Yeah,
after the
of
people you
course.
enjoy. But
That's how you find your own voice. Is you like get really into a phase with a specific person or artist or approach or what have you. Insert word here. For me, it's like when I get super into Freddie and Queen, I learn how he creates his sound. Where's his vibrato? Where's he spinning? Where's he cutting off? How does he cut off? Is it breath attacks? Is it this? And I get into every technical thing I can. And then I'm in this like micro Freddie Mercury world, and it's back to macro and looking at the whole picture. And through, like I said, through muscle memory and just years or whatever of practicing a certain way, those start to find their way into the grand picture of who you are. And it sometimes it's a conscious decision to put in a bit of Freddie in this part, in that part, but sometimes it's more natural because you've just been in that space, and then you were in the space of somebody else, and then you wore the shoes of somebody else, and that's when you zoom out again to who you are. That's when all that kind of comes together in a really cool, unique way. And I think it's boring if we are just all the same, sounding all the same, like it's a bunch of derivatives of Freddie Mercury. Nobody wants that.
Sure.
I don't. I want like the first Veronica Swift,
Mm-hmm.
And whoever.
You want someone with a different coloratura and just different kinds of, just some sort of different sound, some sort of different feel. Something just makes them unique. And the beautiful thing about that too is that there's 7 billion people in this world, and it's crazy to think that we all have different voices somehow. And some people might argue and say, "Oh, some of us sound the same." We sure about that? Some of our voices can be truly, truly unique.
Yeah, I know. That's what I want. So I'm sorry if that was a non-question, or non-answer, but
No.
That's what I feel.
No, there's no non-answer there. That's actually quite a profound answer, because I've never had anyone present it that way before, and I have a lot of respect for that. But yeah, what a profound way to end this podcast.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much for popping in to chat for a little bit. I know you've got a lot going on, but it's been a true blessing and pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad you reached out again and got this going.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to pull it off. If you guys are enjoying the content, you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you let me know about it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. And if you want to visit the Patreon, you're welcome to do so. Like I said, with her information, I'll have it in the description. Make sure you go check her out. Show her all the love in the world. She's got a heck of a voice, and you need to go listen right now. Without further ado, we're going to cut this one off, but we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Love you guys. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching today. This video is made possible by patrons like Miss Nancy Flesher. If you are interested in getting shoutouts like this at the end of my videos, make sure you hit the link in my description to go to Patreon, where you have the ability to do so. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I love you. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.